Hello, everyone. This is Dr. White with an introduction to the RStudio server. You should already have watched the screencast about just logging in and logging out. This time we're going to log in and stay long enough to learn our way around a little bit. So remember, the login that you'll get from your course materials, Canvas or the syllabus, whatever, the URL is https://rstudio.georgetowncollege.edu:8787. You get to the login splash page. You log in with your Georgetown College user ID and your Georgetown College password. You cannot see the password as you type, so you have to be very careful to watch and spell it all correctly. Upper and lowercase matter. Make sure you get that right. You do not push the button that says stay signed in when the browser closes. It's best that when you close your browser, you also sign out. Press the sign in button. And you'll have to wait for a bit while the RStudio server prepares a screen for you to look at. And I am going to go ahead and make it look closest to how it's going to look to you when you're logging in the first few times. So recall that you get a window on the left that has two panes, console and terminal, probably. You have on the right a window on the top that has tabs called Environment, History, Connections, and Tutorial. You have on the bottom a pane that has tabs probably called Files, Plots, Packages, Help, and Viewer. On the left, the tab that's probably on the top is Console. If it's not, press so that it is on the top. For most of you and most of the courses that involve RStudio, you're not going to be working with Terminal right away, if ever. As far as the upper right-hand window, amongst all these tabs, the one that you're going to work with almost all the time in all your courses is Environment, so you can just make sure that's on top by pressing it. As for down here, you'll work with several of the tabs, but for now, make sure that Files is the active and uppermost tab. Okay, what have you got? RStudio is what we call an integrated development environment for the R programming language. So that you're going to do your work, whether it's a computer science or a statistics course, using a programming language called R, literally the letter R. But this software is a development environment for R. It's something that helps people who write computer programs in R do their work more easily. It's also been discovered that it's a really good environment for teaching with R as long as you stay with the simple stuff, and we'll steer you away from complicated stuff that could make your life worse if you step in it. So, simple stuff includes the console. The console is the most direct way that you communicate with what we call your R session. Your R session is basically the language R waiting to get commands from you. And the console is your way to give commands to R. You'll learn many R commands in the course of the semester. Why don't we just do a simple one here in the console? Going down and clicking at the bottom of the blue prompts that you see here, the bottommost one, that's the active prompt, the one that's like waiting for a command. And once the little vertical bar is clicking and flashing there, enter a command. How about 2 + 2? Feel free to pause the screencast and enter this command. Now, once it's entered, you need to actually once it's typed in, you need to actually enter it by simply pressing the enter or return key on your keyboard. So I'm going to do that now. And R responds with the answer, 4. There's a funny 1 in brackets before the 4. Don't worry about that. In some courses, you'll learn a lot more about why R presents some of its results in the console in the way that it does. But notice that what you enter in as commands is in blue and it's next to prompts. R's responses are in a different color and they're not next to prompts. You can always tell the difference between what you told R to do versus what kind of answers it gave. Okay, that's the console for now. Think about the environment. The environment is a place that's going to store objects that you create in the course of your R session. And you'll have them there and you can use them again. So a very simple example of this might be, let's create an object that's going to hold a value that we might use later. Like, how about an object called greeting? And so at the console, I simply type greeting, and then space and a less than sign and a hyphen right together. Here, I'm going to make the screen a little bit bigger so that everyone can see that more easily. How did I do that, by the way? On most browsers, you can make the text appear bigger with a Control+ if you're on Windows, and a Command+ if you're on Mac. I'm on a Mac, so I did a couple of Command+. And if you want it to get smaller again, you could just do Control- or Command- until you're happy with the size. Okay, back to greeting. And the less than and the hyphen are what we call an assignment operator. Another space just to make it look good. And how about a nice greeting like hello? Exclamation point. I put it in quotes. It's what we call a string. It's just a text for R. And I'm ready to enter this command by, again, pressing the return or enter key on your keyboard. It looks like there's no answer over here in the console. It looks like nothing happened, but really something did. When you look in the global environment here, you see a name, greeting, and you see that it's been bound to the value hello. So you can use this later on. For example, if you just wanted to see it again, then in the console you could type greeting, press enter, and out comes hello. And depending on what course you're in, you'll learn like many other things that you could do with this. You know, you could put it inside of other R commands, cat, I don't know, quotes, Tom says, comma, greeting, and run that command. And so you don't have to understand right now how that's working. And in what course, the courses you take, it may not ever show up for you. But what happens is this cat function in R, it used the text Tom says along with greeting. It looked up greeting in your global environment, found that it was hello, and it stuck those two things together. Okay, so you'll as you go on through your work in R, you'll find that there are things that get stuck in your global environment, and they can be useful for later. If you ever want to clear out your global environment, then you can just press the broom and then just say yes, and away it goes. Another cool thing about the console, coming back to it, if you would like to repeat a command, then you could type it again into the console, or you could press the up arrow on your keyboard. And the up arrow takes you back to the previous command in the history of all the commands you've ever typed during this R session. So you come back to the previous command. Actually, if you kept on pressing the up arrow, you would go back and back and back into your history, but yours is probably not very long. Mine is. I could go way back. But you could just, run this command again just by saying enter. And notice this time there's this error, okay? Object greeting not found. And that's because the greeting is no longer in your global environment, so R doesn't know what greeting is, and so it wasn't able to run that command this time. Okay. Let's move down into the lower window, and so that means I'm going to need to take my face away for a while. This is the one where the files pane is on top. This is what we call my home directory. Everybody has their own home directory, and it consists of files that they have control over. Right now, you probably don't have much. You might have a directory called R, but it probably doesn't have anything inside of it. If you're in a class already, then and an instructor has set things up for you, then you may have a directory called My Notes, and you may have a directory called Submit, and a directory, you might even have a directory called Returns. You might have those three directories. We'll learn more about those as the course goes on. But you might not have any other files sitting next to those directories. I've got a lot of those files. Hey, let's make a file. So if you go to File over here in the upper left-hand corner and click on that menu item, you get the option for New File coming first. There's a little drop down that shows up next to that, and there's a lot of different new files you could create, but why don't we just create an R script? An R script is a very simple and efficient way to record R commands that you're working with. So I'm gonna record some R commands into this file, but first of all, let me go ahead and save it with a name. Right now it just says untitled, and it's not even like saved anywhere in my home directory. So I'll say File, Save As, and why don't I get the option to name this file? Why don't I name it first_time.r, and let me save it into my my notes. How about that? So if you click on My Notes, that actually doesn't get you to where you need to be, but if you double click, then you'll see how in this dialog box, the blue now says Home, then My Notes. So at that point, you know that you really are pointing inside the My Notes directory. And I've got a lot of different R scripts there right now. You probably don't have any. But if you go down here to the button that says Save, and you press Save, then that file has been saved into My Notes. Okay, let's go back to this this window that got created, when we made this file. It's often called the editor pane, and you can actually have what we call buffers for many different files up at the same time, and they'll show up as tabs on this editor pane. Why don't we go ahead and add something into this buffer? How about that nice command? But maybe before the command, a comment. In R scripts, comments have hashtags. How about a hashtag? Our first R command. And that slightly gray text indicates that that line there is not actual R code, it's just a comment. And if R is asked to run all the commands in this R script, it will ignore that line because it's just a comment. And now the command itself, 2 + 2. Okay. Once you've written the command, then you've done something. You might want to save your work, and so to save, you press. You can go to File and you can say Save. If it's grayed out like that, then you've actually just saved. And actually, I did just save. I didn't mean to do it so fast. I'm just in the habit of saving almost every time I do the smallest piece of work. And why is that? let me give you an idea of why. Let me just close this file by clicking on the X. Okay, the file doesn't disappear because I have saved it into my notes. So if I go in over here in the Files pane and look into my notes and click on my notes, then inside I'm going to see firsttime.r. And if I click on the blue text for firsttime.r, I get my work into this buffer again. Okay, let me try a new command. How about just more arithmetic? How about 5 plus 27 divided by 3.2. Okay. So I've typed this R command into firsttime.r. I haven't saved yet. And I can tell that I haven't saved because there is an asterisk at the end of the file name up here where I'm waving my mouse. This is important. There is a difference between what you see here in the Files pane versus what's actually down here saved in my notes. What's saved in my notes is only the stuff up into the first 2 lines. The third and fourth lines have been added to what we call a buffer, this stuff that you see here. But that buffer for this file has not been saved into the file yet. If I were to save, I could do it. There's 2 ways to save. File, you can save that way. It'll be a Control-S or a Command-S for a shortcut. I recommend using the keyboard shortcuts as soon as you learn them. And you can learn them by seeing them next to the commands in the menus. On my Mac, it says Command-S. That tells me that for me, the shortcut is Command-S. On Windows, it would probably say Control-S. Give it a try when you're following along, and you'll see. Okay, so let me go ahead and do a Command-S, and you'll see that the asterisk went away. And now when I close and open again, you see I had saved my results. They all come back to me. Let me try one more command. How about cat hello R? Okay. And I've typed that command, but I have not entered it, or I have not saved it. What would happen if I tried to close my file? Let me click on the X. Oh, it detects that the buffer has some unsaved changes. It gives you the option to save them if you want. If you say don't save, then you'll close the file but not save any of that new command. The cancel is, oh, you're not going to quit after all. Let me go ahead and save. And let me talk about running these commands. So you can always run a command in an R script if you could select it, and then you could say run. And we get 2 plus 2 is 4 down in the console here. Whenever you run commands from an R script, basically R copies the commands and pastes them into the console for you and then presses enter for you. So you could actually run a couple of commands at once. Like you could select all of that area and say run. And you see it actually did the 2 plus 2 is 4. And it did the 5 plus 7 over 3.2 is a 10. It even ran the blank line here, line 3. That blank line got ran. It showed up as this kind of empty console. Okay. If you wanted to run all of the commands in the R script, you could actually press this button called source. And then it tries everything. 2 plus 2 is 4. This operation turned out to be 10. and the hello R all got run, but actually only the last one showed up in the console. Pressing the source button was the same as entering this sophisticated R command here. All the commands got run, but it only showed the results of the last one. Beginners won't be sourcing very often. Sometimes you just want to run one command, but you don't have to select to do that. You could just have your cursor somewhere on the line where the command is, and then you could press run. So we get 2 + 2 is 4. When that happens, the cursor will go down to the next R command. And so the next time you press run, you will run the next command. And the cursor goes down again. It's even shorter than that. You can go to any command you want to run, like maybe the one on line 4. You don't have to go and press run. You could actually say Control Enter or Command Enter. I'm going to say Command Enter because I'm on a Mac, and it runs. Okay, so some of you will experiment with R scripts. I just made an R script here and played around with it, basically to show you that you can make your own files, and you will do that quite often. Make them and save them to places in your home directory. Your home directory is not the only place you're ever going to go. You can go to places outside your home directory if you push the ... dots over here in the upper right when the Files tab is on top. You'll see a ... dots. If you press it, you'll get a dialog box and it'll ask you where you want to go. If you enter a /, and that's underneath the question mark on your keyboard, and then COM, and say OK, or just press enter, then you actually get to what we call the common directory, COM, where instructors put materials for their courses. And you can click on the blue directory names to get inside these directories and get to other further directories and get to materials that you might need for your course. So in future screencasts, we'll go through that process, and it'll be specific for whatever course that you're working in. If you want to be looking back in your home directory, no problem. Go to the ... dots, and notice how it says use a twiddles, a tilde sign for a home directory. The tilde, I often call it twiddles, is located on a key near the upper left-hand corner of your keyboard. It's right over a backtick. So find the tilde and do a shift tilde. So you have to do a shift, hold down the shift, and press tilde. And then you say OK, and you're looking back into your home directory. Okay, that's enough, I think, of a first navigation of RStudio. If you want to close the file that you've made, you certainly can, and then you're only looking at your console. How about we log out? So remembering for logout, you are going to go to your username, and you are going to go to the sign out button right next to it. Please try to avoid these other buttons until we teach you about them in the course, session and project and R version and stuff like that. Really, you're just only going to be concerned about this sign out button. You just press it, and you have logged out of your RStudio session. But that information that you have worked with, everything that you have done, has been saved for you. So if you were to log in again, then you'll find the consoles at the same place. And if you go into your My Notes, and you open the file you made, it's going to say the exact same stuff that you say. Hey, let's say you make another change. How about, another math thing. How about 4 times 10? And how about I don't save it? So my buffer has the 4 times 10 in it. The file does not. What if I decided to log off now? So I go to the sign out button, sign out. And let's say later I come on some other computer or just, later at the same computer, and I log in. Notice signing out did not cause me to lose the unsaved changes in this buffer. They're still there. So RStudio is keeping track even of the unsaved changes in your buffer. That makes it important. If you think that that needs to be saved, you do have to do it yourself. RStudio does not do it for you. I'm going to go ahead and save that change, log out one more time, and that'll be enough for our quick introduction to navigating RStudio. See you later.